Folks, here's the hard truth. Most men miss the right compliment can open her heart in seconds, but the wrong one makes you invisible. You've probably been generous with praise. You told her she was beautiful, amazing, stunning. She smiled, said thank you, and somehow felt farther away. Dates felt polite, not electric. Your words landed, but nothing stuck. Why? Because surface compliments feed ego for a moment, but deep recognition feeds the soul for a long time. Older men win. I'm here to wake you up, not to comfort you. Tonight we are going to replace cheap flattery with precise recognition. I will show you how to compliment a woman's character, her energy, her choices under pressure, and the quiet influence she has on people around her. We will use Stoic principles so your words carry weight. Marcus teaches us to master attention. Seneca reminds us that courage is calm. You will learn to speak from that center. By the end, you will know 8 compliments every woman loves to hear from a grounded man, plus how to deliver them with timing, tone, and silence so they linger. These are not lines to memorize. They are frames that make her feel seen, not sold. If you are ready to stop sounding like every man and start sounding like the man she remembers, stay with me. Let's get into it. Number 1. The compliment that touches her soul, not her looks. Most men think the way to impress a woman is to tell her she's beautiful. It's easy, automatic, and safe. But here's the reality. Every man says that, and because of that it means almost nothing. What truly reaches a woman isn't a compliment about her appearance. It's a recognition of something deeper, something that touches her soul, not her surface. Let me paint you a picture. David, 52, a calm, well-spoken man from Denver, went on a few dates with Lisa, 46. She's an attractive woman, confident, elegant, and very used to hearing, "You look amazing." On their second dinner together, she mentioned how exhausted she was from managing her team through a stressful project. Most men would have jumped in with empty comfort, "You deserve a break," or "Don't work too hard." David didn't. He looked at her quietly and said, "It shows that people rely on you, and I can see why." That hit her differently. It wasn't about her face, her hair, or her clothes. It was about her value. That's what women remember. When a man sees the strength beneath the surface, the resilience, the thoughtfulness, the calm she hides behind her smile, it makes her feel truly seen. Here's what's happening psychologically. Beauty compliments stroke ego, but recognition compliments touch identity. A woman's sense of worth comes from being understood, not just desired. When your words reflect observation, not performance, she feels safe enough to let her feminine energy unfold. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." That means your words are like dye. They color how she sees herself when she's around you. A cheap compliment leaves no color. A deep one rooted in truth leaves a lasting shade. So how do you do this? You slow down. You observe. Instead of saying, "You look great," try, "I like how calm you stay even when things get messy." Instead of, "You're beautiful," say, "There's something about the way you carry yourself that makes people listen." You're not describing her body, you're describing her energy. David told me later, she started opening up after that one line. It was like she dropped her armor. Of course she did, because that's what true recognition does. It melts defenses. When you stop focusing on what she shows the world and start noticing what she protects from it, you step into rare territory. The Stoics teach that wisdom is in observation, not reaction. Seneca said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Use that. Listen to what she says, how she says it, and what she doesn't say. Women constantly reveal who they are between their words. Most men just aren't paying attention. When you finally acknowledge something meaningful, her patience, her humor under pressure, her thoughtfulness, it doesn't just make her smile. It creates a feeling that lingers long after you leave. That's the kind of compliment that goes home with her, that replays in her mind while she's brushing her hair before bed. Remember, my friend, flattery fades, but truth echoes. Don't tell her what every man can see. Tell her what only a real man can notice. If you've ever seen how a woman softens when she finally feels understood, type, "I've seen this." Stick with me, because this is just the beginning. The next one goes even deeper. Number 2. The words that make her feel understood. Let's be honest, my friend, most men talk at women, not to them. They listen just long enough to respond, but not long enough to understand. And that's where they lose her. Because what women truly crave, especially those who've lived, loved, and been disappointed, is not admiration. It's understanding. You see, when a woman feels understood, she relaxes. Her tone softens. Her guard drops. That's not magic, that's psychology. Understanding makes her feel safe, not because you're agreeing with her, but because you're hearing her. Here's the mistake men make. They think being understood means saying, "I know how you feel." Wrong. That phrase is overused and empty. Understanding is demonstrated through reflection, through saying something that shows you truly got what she said, and even more what she meant. For example, instead of, "You're right, that must have been hard," try something like, "You held it together, even when everything around you was falling apart." That says a lot about you. That line does 3 things. It validates her experience, it acknowledges her strength, and it communicates empathy without pity. That's what women hear in the tone of a grounded man. The voice of someone who doesn't rush to fix her, doesn't compete with her pain, and doesn't need to win the conversation. Just listens, then speaks with intention. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake in any thought or action, I shall gladly change, for I seek the truth which never harmed anyone." That's the Stoic mindset behind true understanding, seeking truth, not control. You're not listening to prepare your next point. You're listening to discover reality as she sees it. That's rare. And women can feel it instantly. In Stoic philosophy, understanding isn't passive. It's active awareness, being fully present, observing without judgment. When she's talking, your mind isn't wandering, your eyes aren't scanning the room, and your phone isn't lighting up in your hand. You're there, fully. That's what makes a mature man magnetic. Not his looks, not his wealth, but his presence. The truth is, a woman can tell within seconds whether you're really there with her or just waiting for your turn to speak. She doesn't need you to solve her problems. She wants you to witness her. When you give her that space, she'll feel something deeper than attraction. She'll feel peace. And that peace is addictive. Because most men create noise, but the rare man creates stillness. And in that stillness, she finds herself opening up in ways she didn't plan to. Seneca once said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." That's true for most women. They overthink, they replay, they feel deeply. But when you show understanding, you quiet her imagination. You make her feel that the storm in her head has finally met someone who doesn't fear it. So here's the key when you speak. Don't aim to impress, aim to connect. Choose words that reflect clarity, not cleverness. Speak like a man who's anchored, not reactive. Because when you do, she won't just hear your words, she'll feel them. That's when she knows you're different. Not because you said something poetic, but because you said something real. If you've ever seen that moment when a woman exhales and finally feels safe around you, type, "I've felt that." Stay tuned, because next we'll explore the one kind of energy that keeps her thinking about you long after you've gone. Number 3. The energy compliment she can't forget. Here's something most men never realize. A woman doesn't fall for what you say, she falls for what she feels when she's around you. Words matter, but energy is what seals the memory. And when a woman feels the right kind of energy, calm, confident, grounded, that impression stays long after the conversation ends. Let me show you what I mean. Mark, 54, a financial advisor from Dallas, met Erin, 47, at a coffee shop. She was used to being complimented on her looks, her clothes, her sharp personality. Every man tried too hard to charm her, but Mark was different. He didn't rush. His tone was low, slow, deliberate. When he finally said, "You have a peaceful energy," it's rare she froze for a moment. Then she smiled. Not the polite kind, but the kind that says, "You actually noticed me." That one sentence hit deeper than 100 "You look beautiful" comments. Why? Because he wasn't talking about her appearance, he was describing her presence. He made her aware of something she didn't even know she projected. Women crave that kind of recognition. They want to be seen for how they affect a room, not just how they look in it. When you can read her energy and mirror it with stillness, she feels understood on a level that bypasses logic. Mark later told me, "I just said what I genuinely felt." That's exactly the point. When your energy is authentic, your words don't sound like a line, they sound like truth. You see, women are emotional detectors. They feel incongruence instantly. If your tone says confident, but your eyes say, "Please like me," she'll feel the split and disconnect. But if your energy and your words align, calm, focused, intentional, she'll trust it. In Stoic terms, this is temperance, the ability to hold steady emotional balance no matter what's happening around you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look well into yourself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if you will always look there." That inner stillness is what women sense as energy. You don't create it by performing, you radiate it by being grounded. Now here's the truth most men avoid. If your energy is chaotic, no compliment can save you. But when it's centered, even a few words become unforgettable. Women remember how you made them feel safe in your silence. Mark didn't need to flirt aggressively or flood her with validation. He simply noticed her presence, the way she held herself, the way she paused before speaking, and reflected that back with sincerity. That one small observation built more connection than weeks of trying to impress her. Because here's the secret: women remember the man who sees their energy, because it's the one thing they can't fake. It's intimate, it's spiritual, it makes them feel not admired but recognized. So the next time you're tempted to compliment a woman's beauty, pause, feel her energy first. Is she calm, playful, guarded? Then say something true about that. That's the compliment she'll never forget, because it's not about what's seen by everyone, but what's felt by only you. If you've ever noticed that quiet shift when your calm changed the whole dynamic, type "I've seen this." Stay with me, because next we'll explore the kind of subtle praise that melts even the toughest walls. Number 4. The subtle praise that melts her guard. Here's something you probably already noticed: when you compliment a woman too directly, she tenses up. She smiles, maybe says thank you, but there's a flicker of suspicion in her eyes. It's not because she doesn't like the praise. It's because most men use compliments like currency. They expect something back. But subtle praise, that's different. It slips past her defenses because it isn't loud. It's quiet, specific, and most importantly, it feels earned. When you compliment her subtly, you're not trying to impress her. You're acknowledging something real about her that most men overlook. It's not about saying you're beautiful. It's about noticing something like, "You have a grounded way of speaking, it's calming." That kind of line doesn't trigger her walls, it lowers them. You see, subtle praise doesn't flatter her ego. It soothes her feminine energy. It tells her, "I see you not for what you show the world, but for what you are underneath." Now here's where psychology meets stoicism. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." When you speak from truth, your words carry natural weight. You don't need to sound charming, your authenticity does the work. Subtle praise is powerful because it's rooted in observation, not performance. It doesn't chase validation. It reflects understanding. The Stoics would call this measured speech, words used with restraint and intention. When a man lives by restraint, his words land with power. When he doesn't, his words sound hollow, no matter how poetic. Let's break it down. When you say something like, "You're stunning," she files it away with 1,000 other compliments. But when you say, "I like the way you think" before you speak, most people rush. It lands in a place far deeper. It touches her self-perception, not her vanity. And here's the beautiful irony: subtle praise doesn't demand a reaction. It creates one naturally, because she'll replay it later in her mind, wondering, why did that feel so different? That's the psychology of tension. You don't need to push. You create space, and space creates magnetism. The Stoics believed that control of one's speech is control of one's mind. Seneca wrote, "Better to trip with the feet than with the tongue." So, when you do speak, make your words count. Be deliberate. Be selective. Let silence carry half the message. You want to melt her guard. Speak softly but truthfully. Observe, don't flatter. Tell her something subtle enough to make her pause. Because when she pauses, she feels. And when she feels, that's where attraction begins. Before we move on, I want to share something special with you. If you're the kind of man who's not just chasing attention but learning how to master emotional influence, join our private membership. Inside, we break down Stoic relationship psychology, dark feminine energy, and real-world applications of attraction dynamics in ways that transform how women respond to you. Now, let's keep going, because the next thing you'll discover isn't about what you say, but how your energy lingers after you've said it. You don't want to miss this. Number 5. The recognition that makes her respect you. Here's the truth, my friend. Respect doesn't come from money, muscles, or even status. It comes from recognition. Not recognition of yourself, but of her. When you recognize a woman for something real, something deeper than surface charm, she doesn't just notice you, she re-evaluates you. Let me give you a story to make it real. Daniel, 49, owns a small construction business in Arizona. He met Lauren, 45, a divorced interior designer, at a friend's dinner party. She was used to men hitting on her compliments, flattery, the usual routine. But Daniel, he didn't compliment her looks once. Instead, when she mentioned she'd raised 2 kids while building her own business, he looked at her and said, "That takes grit. Most people fold under that kind of pressure, you didn't." That moment changed everything. She smiled, but not out of pride, out of relief. Someone finally saw her, not as a mother, not as a woman to be desired, but as a person with strength and discipline. You see, most women don't crave admiration, they crave acknowledgement. They want a man who recognizes what it took to become who they are. When you do that, you separate yourself from 99% of men who only see her from the outside. And here's where the psychology gets interesting. When you recognize her strength, she starts to recognize yours. Respect is reciprocal. When a woman feels seen for her effort, she sees you as a man of awareness, and awareness to a feminine mind equals power. Daniel didn't say much after that. He didn't follow up his recognition with another compliment or an attempt to steer the conversation toward himself. He let silence do the work. That's what Stoicism teaches: composure in presence. Epictetus once wrote, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." That's exactly what Daniel did. He observed, he spoke once, and he meant every word. When you speak from that place, grounded, precise, intentional, your words land like truth, and truth commands respect. Now here's what most men get wrong. They confuse recognition with validation. Validation sounds like, "You're amazing." Recognition sounds like, "I can tell you've been through a lot and came out stronger." See the difference? One is flattery, the other is observation. Recognition doesn't try to win her. It simply states what's real, and real is rare. Here's something else. When you give a woman that kind of recognition, she'll carry it with her long after you've left. She'll think about it later, not because it inflated her ego, but because it validated her identity. It made her feel seen, not desired, not chased, but understood. Daniel told me later, that one line shifted how she looked at me the rest of the night. Of course it did, because when you respect what's strong in a woman, she naturally respects what's strong in you. That's the paradox. The more you acknowledge her inner world, the more she feels your masculine presence. So next time you talk to a woman, skip the compliments about her dress or her eyes. Look deeper. Recognize the discipline, the resilience, the quiet endurance. And when you do speak it once, mean it fully, then let it hang in the air. That's how real respect begins, not demanded, not performed, but earned through understanding. If you've ever seen that shift in her eyes when she truly respects you, type, I've seen it. Stay tuned, because next, we're diving into a kind of compliment that doesn't just earn admiration, it sparks attraction at a soul level. Number 6. The compliment that awakens her feminine core. Most men think that complimenting a woman means praising her beauty, her intelligence, or her success. But that kind of praise, while pleasant, rarely moves her. Because deep down, what women truly crave isn't admiration for what they do. It's appreciation for who they are when they stop trying to be strong. Every woman, no matter how independent or confident she appears, carries within her a feminine core, a place that longs to feel seen, safe, and free to soften. The right compliment doesn't inflate her ego. It gives her permission to exhale. And here's the paradox. Only a man with real masculine calm can awaken that softness in her, because it takes strength to make another person feel safe enough to let go of theirs. When you say something like, "You have a warmth that makes people relax around you," it lands differently. You're not praising her effort. You're recognizing her essence. You're telling her, I see the woman underneath all the layers. That's why this kind of compliment hits deeper than any line about her appearance. It doesn't appeal to her vanity, it speaks to her being. Now, Stoicism might seem cold or detached at first glance, but true Stoicism is the opposite. It's about emotional mastery, not suppression. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." What he meant was, your inner calm affects everyone you touch. When your presence is grounded, your words carry that same stillness. And women feel it often before they understand it. That's the essence of masculine energy, calm, decisive, and unshaken. When you compliment her from that place, it awakens the feminine in her because she senses she can finally rest in your energy. You're not saying you're beautiful. You're saying there's something peaceful about you, like you don't need to prove anything. That statement, said calmly and without agenda, melts defenses faster than any seductive phrase. Women spend their lives being praised for their performance, their jobs, their looks, their wit. What they rarely hear is recognition for their presence, for the energy they bring into a space without even trying. That's what awakens her core. It tells her that you see her beyond the image she projects, and that recognition is intoxicating. Because for a woman to truly relax into her feminine, she must feel the strength of a man who doesn't need to dominate her, only understand her. Seneca once wrote, "He who is brave is free." In this context, that freedom is what your presence gives her. The bravery to stop performing, to just be. So when you speak to her, keep your tone slow, your body still, your eyes steady. Don't chase reaction. The more calm you are, the more her energy flows naturally toward you. It's the law of polarity. Stillness attracts movement, strength invites softness. And that's the secret. The compliment that awakens her feminine core isn't loud or poetic. It's simple, honest, and felt more in your tone than your words. Tell her something true, something that reflects her natural essence, not her achievements. And when you do it from a place of grounded authenticity, she'll remember not just what you said, but how she felt when you said it. Because that's what she truly wants, not validation, but resonance. Number 7. The quiet compliment that speaks louder than words. Sometimes the most powerful compliment isn't spoken at all. It's in the silence, in the way you look at her, the way your presence fills the room, the way she feels seen without a single word leaving your mouth. Take Michael, 52, a retired firefighter from Denver. He met Claire, 47, at a mutual friend's art gallery event. She was elegant but cautious, the kind of woman who'd built walls after years of being disappointed by shallow flattery. When Michael approached her, he didn't start with a line or a compliment. He simply stood next to her, looked at the painting she was observing and said, "You have good taste. You notice things most people miss." Then he smiled faintly, held her gaze for a second and went quiet. That silence said more than a dozen compliments ever could. It told her, "I'm not here to chase, I'm here to connect." See, most men rush to fill silence because they fear it means awkwardness. But to a woman, a man who can stay calm in silence radiates confidence. It shows control. It shows presence. And that quietness becomes a kind of compliment in itself because it makes her feel safe and seen without being overpowered. Psychologically, silence allows space for projection. When you pause, she starts to wonder what you're thinking, and that curiosity pulls her in. You've probably noticed this when you stop trying so hard, people lean toward you. Women are no different. But here's where the quiet compliment gets even deeper. It's not just about saying less. It's about saying the right thing once and letting it breathe. When you do speak, your words carry weight because they're not competing with noise. For instance, Michael later told Claire, "You've got a calm confidence about you. Most people mistake that for distance, but I get it." Then he stopped talking. That line hit her like lightning because it revealed understanding, not performance. That's what makes this kind of compliment unforgettable. It's not about flattery, it's about resonance. When you speak less but mean more, she starts associating your presence with depth and mystery, and that feeling stays with her. There's a Stoic lesson here too. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Silence is a lesson learned from the talkative." What he meant is that wisdom isn't in the words, it's in restraint. A man who doesn't need to talk constantly to prove his worth shows true composure. Women subconsciously crave that kind of man, one who can sit in silence and still command the room. Because silence in a masculine man isn't emptiness, it's stability. And feminine energy finds safety in that stability. Michael didn't have to be charming or witty. His quiet confidence was the compliment. He didn't make Claire feel flattered, he made her feel understood without even trying. That's why I tell men this sometimes. The most effective compliment isn't in your words, but in your energy. It's in your posture, your tone, your calm eye contact. When you stop needing to impress her, you start affecting her. Women remember the man who listens more than he speaks. Because when you listen, she feels valued. When you pause, she leans in. When you hold silence, she feels seen. So don't underestimate the power of saying little. A quiet compliment delivered with presence and certainty can echo in her mind for days long after every loud man has been forgotten. Number 8. The praise that mirrors her strength. Let's get real, folks. Every woman you meet has heard 1,000 compliments before. About her looks, her style, her smile. But very few men ever notice what truly makes her powerful, her strength. Not the loud, flashy kind, the quiet kind. The kind that comes from holding herself together when the world fell apart. See, when you praise a woman's strength, you're not flattering her ego, you're speaking to her core. You're telling her, "I see what others miss." And that kind of recognition, my friend, is unforgettable. Because here's the truth, most women don't want to be told they're perfect. They want to be understood. They want a man who notices the weight they carry, but also the grace with which they carry it. When you say something like, You handle life with calm that's rare. It lands differently. It's not about impressing her, it's about seeing her. And that's the difference between an ordinary man and one who leaves a mark. Stoic philosophy teaches this beautifully. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." A woman's strength often comes from hardship, from what stood in her way. So when you acknowledge her calm resilience, you're not just complimenting her. You're honoring her story. You're saying, "I see how life tested you and how you didn't crumble." That's not romance, that's recognition. But here's the thing, this kind of compliment must come from stillness, not seduction. If your tone is performative, it dies the moment it's spoken. But if you mean it, if it comes from a grounded, observant place, she feels it before she even processes it. The Stoics valued this kind of restraint. Epictetus said, "Be silent for the most part, or speak only what is necessary." That applies here. Say it once, mean it fully. Then let silence carry the weight. You see, when you speak with restraint, your words gain gravity. You don't need to over-explain or fill the air, your presence does that. And your calm becomes the mirror in which she sees her own strength reflected back. That's what real masculine energy does. It doesn't compete with her power, it contains it. It says, you can be strong and still be feminine. And the moment she feels that balance in your presence, something shifts. She doesn't just respect you, she relaxes around you. It's ironic, isn't it? The more you acknowledge her strength, the more she feels safe to be soft. Because finally she's around a man who doesn't fear her power, he respects it. And respect, my friend, is the foundation of attraction that lasts. Now think about it. Have you ever looked a woman in the eye and acknowledged her strength without trying to charm her? Not her beauty, not her success, but her resilience. If you've done that and seen her entire energy change, type it below. I've seen it. Because that moment right there, that shift from defense to trust, is when real connection begins. Stay with me, because what comes next isn't just about seeing her strength. It's about how to speak to her feminine side without words, something most men never master. And trust me, you don't want to miss that. Number 9. The compliment that builds irresistible tension. Here's something most men never understand. Not all compliments are meant to relax her. Some are meant to ignite her. The right kind of compliment can create a spark, a subtle psychological tension that keeps her thinking about you long after the conversation ends. Let me give you an example. Mark, 48, a photographer from Chicago, met Rachel, 44, at a local coffee shop. She was confident, witty, and clearly used to being admired. Most men would have complimented her looks right away, her hair, her style, her energy. But Mark did something different. When she teased him about his black coffee, he smiled and said, "You've got that dangerous kind of charm, the kind that makes people underestimate how smart you are." Then he leaned back, said nothing else, and let the silence hang. That one line changed the energy instantly. It wasn't about her beauty, it was about her power. And by acknowledging it without chasing it, he flipped the dynamic. She laughed, looked away, then looked back, and that's when he knew he had her attention. You see, tension is born in contrast. You create it by mixing warmth with composure, playfulness with depth. A compliment that builds attraction never gives too much. It leaves space for her imagination to do the rest. Stoic philosophy explains this perfectly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The same applies in this context. You don't need to control her reaction, you just need to control your delivery. When your tone is calm and your energy steady, your words carry power. When you speak too fast, over-explain, or try too hard, you kill the tension. What makes a compliment magnetic is the restraint behind it. Mark didn't flood Rachel with words. He made one sharp observation and then let her feel it. That silence after the compliment, that's where the tension lives. Because she's left wondering, what does he mean by that? That's exactly what you want. Attraction doesn't come from over-expressing interest. It comes from creating mystery. Now here's the psychological trick most men miss. When you acknowledge something about her that isn't obvious, you bypass her defenses. Most compliments hit the ego, but this kind of compliment hits her subconscious, the part that wonders, what does he see in me that others don't? You don't tell her she's beautiful. You tell her you've got an intensity that makes it hard to look away. That's not about her looks, that's about her presence. And when you recognize that she feels both exposed and fascinated, a powerful combination. The Stoics believed in the balance between control and surrender, between logic and passion. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And that's the exact quality women find irresistible. When your energy stays calm, even as you stir emotion in her, she feels the tension between your stillness and her reaction. That's what drives her crazy, not your words, but your composure while delivering them. So remember, the most irresistible compliment isn't the one that flatters, it's the one that stirs. It reveals a truth she didn't expect to hear and leaves her wondering what else you've noticed. If you've ever seen that flicker in her eyes, that half smile that says she's curious but trying not to show it type, I've seen it. Because next we're diving into the kind of compliment that doesn't just create tension, it anchors desire. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this. Number 10. The kind of compliment she'll remember forever. Let's be honest, my friend, most compliments vanish as quickly as they're spoken. They give her a small rush, a flicker of validation, and then fade into the background with all the other things she's heard before. But there's a rare kind of compliment that doesn't fade. It stays, it echoes, it lodges itself somewhere deep inside her mind and replays when she least expects it. That's the compliment that changes the way she sees herself. You see, a typical compliment tells her what she already knows. You're beautiful, you're kind, you're smart. It's nice but predictable. A truly unforgettable compliment, however, reveals something true that she's never fully seen, something she feels deep down, but rarely hears reflected back to her. When a man does that, she doesn't just feel flattered, she feels understood. Here's what most men get wrong. They speak to her ego, not her essence. They tell her what's visible, but the kind of compliment she'll remember forever speaks to her identity. It mirrors her soul. For example, telling a woman, "You have a kind heart," is polite. But saying, "You carry warmth in a world that often forgets it, and you make people feel safe because of it," touches something deeper. It doesn't describe her, it defines her. The difference lies in depth, not drama. Because a timeless compliment isn't about exaggeration, it's about clarity. You show her what's rare about her without needing to dress it up. Stoicism teaches this kind of precision. Seneca once wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." The Stoic man sees beyond surface impressions. He doesn't praise beauty for beauty's sake. He acknowledges character, composure, and presence, the things that endure after youth fades. And here's why that matters. Women live in a world that constantly evaluates them by appearance, by age, by performance. A man who looks past all that and names something timeless about her gives her a feeling no other man can, because for a moment she feels seen without needing to perform. That's the power of a well-placed compliment. It's not sugar, it's truth. Now, this doesn't mean you become overly serious or philosophical. Delivery matters. You say it calmly, almost like an observation. You look her in the eyes and let your tone carry sincerity, not seduction. A grounded compliment doesn't sound like flattery, it sounds like recognition. And recognition, when done right, has gravity. Here's the paradox. When you speak to her essence instead of her surface, she'll remember your words long after she's forgotten your face. because that kind of truth imprints on her. It's not about how you make her think of you, it's about how you make her feel about herself. Asterisk. That's why she'll remember the man who told her, "You've got a calm strength most people never see until they need it." Or the man who quietly said, "You bring peace just by being in the room." Those words live rent-free in her mind because they reveal something she is not, something she shows. And the secret ingredient behind all of this, presence. A compliment only becomes unforgettable when it's grounded in presence, when it's said by a man who doesn't need to impress but simply notices. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." The same truth applies here. The power of your compliment depends on the quality of your perception. When you see clearly, you speak powerfully. So the kind of compliment she'll remember forever isn't poetic or exaggerated. It's quiet, it's precise, it's real. It's the moment when she realizes, maybe for the first time, that someone finally sees her, not just for how she looks, but for what she is. And when that happens, my friend, you don't just leave an impression, you leave a mark. So my friend, now you understand, it's never about saying more, it's about saying what matters. Every compliment you give has the power to shape how she feels, not just about you, but about herself. When you speak from calm, confidence, from truth, from the kind of presence that only experience brings, that's when your words carry real weight. In this video, we uncovered how different kinds of compliments, from the subtle ones that melt her guard to the deep ones that mirror her strength, awaken something powerful inside her. You've learned that what truly attracts a woman isn't flattery or charm, but awareness, respect, and emotional control. That's the essence of Stoic masculinity, influence through stillness, not noise. If you want to go deeper, if you're ready to master the psychology of connection, power, and masculine energy, join our private membership. Inside, we go beyond the surface and explore how Stoic principles can transform the way you move, speak, and lead in every part of your life. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because every day we uncover another truth about women, men, and the subtle art of control that no one else talks about. Thank you for watching, my friend. Stay disciplined, stay grounded, and I'll see you tomorrow.